And we are on Steam, taking a look at 1348 Ex Voto. That's a mouthful. It's currently sitting at mixed review on Steam, released 9 days ago as of this recording. The developer is Sedlio, publisher is Dear Villagers. Never heard of these two before. They must be European or something. Yeah, I mean, just looking at some of the trailer and the screenshots, it sort of looks like Hellblade: Senua's Sacrifice from 2017. Thoroughly enjoyed that game. Got all the trophies on Steam actually um, back then. Anyway, yeah, like you can tell from just looking at her sword stance, it looks just like that game. Just looking at, I mean, it actually doesn't even look as good visually as good, and that was an Unreal Engine 4 title. This does kind of look like Unreal Engine. So yeah, it's currently at you know roughly $23 on Steam. So it's an indie title, and there was a patch released as of Wednesday, patch 1.05, so March 18th. So let's take a look at the system requirement. Yeah, like it's what is this? The recommended is asking for a Ryzen 5600X and an Intel Core i5 600K. I can overlook that, but the graphics card, it's this is insane. Just to play at 1440p high settings, 60 FPS, you need an RTX 5070 and a Radeon 7900 GRE. That is insane. Like this graphics doesn't look. It doesn't even look that much better than PS4 Sony PS4 exclusives. Like I've played games, all the 1886, Drive Club, um, Infamous Second Son. Um, I mean, Uncharted 4 that looks better than this, and it looks like most of the lighting is baked. And it's asking for this steep hardware. No wonder the game is sitting at mixed review on Steam. This is ridiculous. This has to be Unreal Engine 5. It just has to be a bloated garbage engine that is absolutely destroying the gaming industry. I mean, I could be wrong, but it just looks like an Unreal Engine game. Like, just look at it. Here we go again. And we are back in 1348 Ex Voto. Here's the main screen. The game does have a shaded compilation process, which took me roughly 20 seconds to complete. I do have an Intel Core i9 9900K overclocked to 5 gigahertz and a RTX 2080 Ti plus 50 on the core plus 1000 megahertz on the memory. So your mileage may vary. You can have a faster shaded compilation time or slower than mine, depending on your CPU, that is. So we're going to take a look at the options menu in gameplay. Nothing too exciting. I do like the fact that the developers set toggle run to off by default. I like to hold the left shift button to sprint and let go to stop sprinting. So toggle run and toggle stance were both set to off by default. In the graphics menu, my screen resolution maximum is 2560 by 1440. By default, upscaling resolution was set to 50. Maximum frame rate unlimited, windowed mode, VSync, and motion blur is set to off. I did turn up the upscaling resolution to 100. And as far as like the graphical presets, this is all you have: view distance, anti-aliasing, post-processing, shadows, global illumination, reflection, textures, effects, foliage, and shaders. High is the highest preset you can go up to. The game does recommend, as I mentioned earlier, a RX 5070 and an AMD RX 7900 GRE. Those GPUs are equivalent to, I believe, a RTX 3080, maybe 3080 Ti, respectively. So we're gonna take a look at the main game and see how my system performs. And we are back. As I suspected, this game is using Unreal Engine 5. I mean, you can just tell just by looking at it. It always has this blurry, grainy look to it. It's quite hard to differentiate Unreal Engine games from each other. They all tend to look the same. I mean, if that doesn't even convince you, you can just take a look at the performance. As I mentioned earlier, the game requirement is quite steep, but the visuals on hand doesn't even look that much better than a game that I've seen 10, 12 years ago on the PlayStation 4. I mean, Hellblade Senua's Sacrifice, the first game, looks much better than this and kind of runs better too. Uh, I mean, considering that is an Unreal Engine 4 game. Yeah, so it's just trying to head to this town. Let me just run around and see what happens. Okay, that's blocked off. Yeah, I mean, look at the character model. It doesn't even look that good. Like the hair doesn't even have any. It doesn't have any hair physics. It's just one clump clump of texture. It's like she's wearing a mop on her head. Um, every time I pan the camera, it just doesn't look right. And this is with motion blur turned off by default, and it just looks so grainy. There's ghosting around the character as I pan my mouse around. Um, you know, the trees are more or less static. Like they don't even sway in the wind. I mean, just look at this Unreal Engine 4. What Unreal Engine 5? I wonder what um, technology it's using. Maybe nanite that's eating up my performance. Maybe forced ray tracing. Who knows? But let me see. Let me take a look at this grass. Look, it doesn't even sway. You just clip right through it. And this is Unreal Engine, folks. The worst gaming engine in history. Yeah, so if you have an 8 GB GPU, forget about it. You're not going to be able to play this game on high settings. You can see I'm close to 8.5 gigs. System memory is relatively modest, surprisingly. CPU usage, GPU usage, GPU to wattage is pretty good. Uh, Pretty good. Yeah, other than that, frame rate is just kind of low. Yeah, I mean, look at this fire effect. It just looks horrible. The draw distance, the view distance doesn't even come close to Death Stranding 2. And this is a linear game. I mean, this ghosting around this camera, this character is so distracting. And mind you, motion blur, like I mentioned, is turned off by default. So anyway, let me keep pace. Yeah, anyway, let's take a look at the crappy combat. I mean, yeah, I mean, Hellblade: Senua's Sacrifice. I remember when the game came out was ridiculed for its combat, and that combat is even far superior to this. Um, so yeah, the game doesn't have any form of upscaling. Well, the traditional type, the fake pixel FSR or DLSS or XCSS. Um, it does have upscaler, what it says in the options menu, in the graphics menu, upscaling resolution. By default, it was set to 50. So let me turn this down to, say, DLSS quality equivalent level, right? Let me just keep it at 70%, right? And see if my performance improves. Okay, it does improve. Yeah, at the cost of my GPU wattage. So now I'm slightly more CPU bound, but the game does feel a little smoother. So if I have to guess, I would say the game is using Unreal Engine TSR, temporal scaling resolution. I think that's what it's called. So it is a temporal aliasing, which is blurry. That kind of explains why the game is a little blurry. Yeah, you can see VRAM now. It's over 9 gigs, 9.3 gigs. So if you have an 8 GB 3070 Ti 2080, forget about it. You're not gonna be able to run this game without turning down settings by a whole lot. Um, yeah, the combat is pretty crap. Um, so yeah, as I was saying, I was, it's funny because I'm trying to figure out what kind of Unreal Engine technology this is using. I'm guessing Nanite, maybe VSM, Virtual Shadow Mapping, um, because Unreal Engine 5 specifically, it's known for being conservative when it comes to VRAM usage. So for this one to use over 9 gigs, this is probably the highest Unreal Engine 5 VRAM usage I've seen. Typically, it's usually less than 8 GB of VRAM. Um, but yeah, let's take a look at the character. Look, the hair doesn't move, no hair physics. Where's stress effects or hair works when you need it? Instead, we get fake pixels. Anyway, there's no frame gen, which is good. Um, yeah, I understand this is an indie developer, um, but if this is your first game, why use Unreal Engine? It's the engine is notorious for being a resource hog and just overall just being abysmal, bloated. What? Yeah. I wish the game had a field of view slider. The camera does seem too up close. I understand it's going for this cinematic experience, but gosh, I'm getting nauseous already. Yeah, so if I have to summarize this game, I would call it Hellblade Senua's Sacrifice, Lesbian Edition. Yeah, that pretty much sums it up. I mean, it's only $23, so um, maybe I'm being too harsh on the game. It's just I don't want to say the game sucks. It's just for the kind of graphics that I'm seeing here on display, the performance should be a lot better. Um, I mean, just look at the shadow. Just look at this. Look at this. Look how grainy and noisy it is. It's just, it feels like when you turn on path tracing and you don't have any denoiser turned on. Um, I mean, just look at this. It's just extremely noisy, and the lighting and everything is baked, so it's not doing anything. It's not doing anything groundbreaking as far as like its technology. You know, it's just a standard Unreal Engine game, like, but the performance is just horrible. Yeah, I mean, I'm all in favor and in support of indie developers. They're at least better than most AAA devs nowadays. Um, but yeah, I just wished more developers would use engines like ITech engine, ITech 7, ITech 8. Um, yeah, even the Decima engine, any engine other than Unreal Engine, like, would be very beneficial to to indie game developers. Yeah, for such an indie game, it does kind of take itself a little bit seriously. I know it's set in a medieval time period, pretty much where people barely lived past 50. A simple scratch was enough to kill them back then. Um, but yeah, at least be kind of historically accurate, like having a female knight. I mean, I don't think that was even a thing back then. Well, at least I will give the game props. It thrusts you right into combat immediately. This guy is like literally Jamie Lannister, dude. What is this, man? Jeez. Yeah, this game also looks like it sort of reminds me of a Plague Tale Innocence. It's like a Plague Tale Innocence and Hellblade: Senua's Sacrifice had a baby. That's essentially how I'll describe this game. Yeah, I mean, at least the game doesn't have any aggressive level of detail transition, like the rocks and the grass, even from a distance, from this distance, seem to hold up fairly well. So that kind of um, confirms my suspicion, my theory that this is using nanite. As far as as at least for the level of detail transition, you know, that's what nanite is pretty good at. But as I explained in my Death Stranding video, you don't need nanite. You know, Death Stranding uses the Decima engine, and it's an open world game, and the the level of detail in the distance, the grass, the rocks, the mountain, is just impeccable. You know, it looks better than pretty much any Unreal Engine 5 game that I've seen. And that, like I said, it's a Decima engine, so it doesn't use nanite. Yeah, the combat in this game is quite finicky and challenging. You really have to time your attack perfectly, and it's based on a stamina system. So, like that. Yeah, it's quite interesting. And once you commit to an attack, you have to finish it. In case I didn't mention, I am recording this game using a an external capture card, so I am not using NVIDIA Shadowplay. Shadowplay incurs, at the very minimum, 10 FPS loss. So for my testing, is roughly 10 to 15 FPS, sometimes more. So this game is currently being recorded on a capture card that is recording directly to my iMac. Yeah, so we're in chapter 2. Um, it does look a little better. The lighting is baked, as I mentioned. Yeah, you know, I can give this game a chance. You know, it doesn't seem too bad. It's just the combat is a bit dodgy, and it takes some getting used to. It plays like Hellblade: Senua's Sacrifice, but a more difficult and less intuitive version of that. Um, yeah, it's sort of like, as I mentioned earlier, it does remind me of Hellblade and A Plague Tale Innocence. I do kind of like games like that. I like the vibe, the indie vibe. You know, that's what kind of attracted me to this game. Um, so, you know, I don't really care for the settings or the woke agenda it's trying to promote. I just, I try to support indie devs whenever I can. Yeah, look at that. My first stutter, my first major stutter, that is, brought my frame rate down to 5. Um, yeah, I mean, the draw distance could be better. As I move, like everything is just shimmery. Even when I don't move, it's just shimmering in the distance. So, yeah. Unreal Engine 5 at its finest. The worst gaming engine in history. Can I go for a swim? I love to swim. Can I go for a swim? Uh-oh. Yeah. Just say you can't swim, lady, alright? Or you're not programmed to swim. Resolution scaling is down to 70%. So similar to what DLSS quality would be. DLSS quality is roughly 65-70% of your native resolution. Yeah, it's an okay game. I think this game it would have gotten better reception if it ran better. The system requirement, what it recommends on Steam, is a bit high. I don't think it's indicative of the visuals that I'm looking at. Certainly not. But I do think my 2080 Ti is doing better than expected. Um, yeah, it's just everything's set to maximum except turning down the upscaler down to 70%. If not, I would be running in the 40s right now. The cutscenes are very heavy, especially when it zooms into a character. You know, when I had it set to 100% resolution, um, I would drop down into the 20s, like 22, 25 FPS, which was abysmal. Yeah, I mean, look at this. Look at this. Yeah, this is definitely using Lumen. I mean, look at this. Look at this. It's trying to simulate ray tracing. So it's a mixture of Lumen and screen space reflection. Like the rock, I can tell it's trying to simulate this mountain, this rock in the distance in the reflection. But I've seen this a bunch of times with Lumen reflection. Like it doesn't, Lumen is not very good with exterior reflections. So a fallback is screen space reflection. You can see as I pan my camera to the left, the my camera occludes the the trees, the bushes. It just disappears from the water. The reflection just vanishes, and then the rock here is just as I turn the camera, is the level of detail keeps changing. Anyway, yeah, so it does look like the game is using nanite and lumen, partial lumen. Yeah, so I wonder if it's using virtual shadow mapping, VSM. Yeah, it's a very linear game. I can't even cross. Like it's just yeah.